Team Sky, as they were known during the majority of the past decade, have had an incredible run of success since their inception in 2010. So successful, in fact, that some have accused the team of being overly dominating and making the tour too predictable. But despite an ever-increasing roster of talent and budget, is the Team Sky, now Team Ineos, domination coming to an end? Are we witnessing the end of an era? Now, before we start, it's worth noting that Ineos are a thoroughly British team. Their aim was to put a British rider on the top step of the Tour de France by 2015. Beginning from the successes of the British Track Cycling programme, Team Sky was headed by Dave Brailsford, who came across from that programme as a performance director. Team Sky and British Cycling have always had strong links from the get-go, and the squad achieved their initial goals fairly quickly, guiding Bradley Wiggins to yellow jersey success in the 2012 Tour de France, and quickly afterwards with Chris Froome in 2013. British success came quick. They rode a wave of British cycling success and did a huge amount to promote the popularity of the sport within the UK, backed up by the success of the London Olympics and Bradley Wiggins' Olympic TT, and adding to that, the success of the GB Track Cycling team in general, where they won 12 medals and topped the Olympic cycling medal table. It was powerful stuff and arguably a quick rise to the top of the hierarchy of the sport. Team Sky and British Cycling had knock-on effects in all areas of the sport in the UK. In 2007, there were 20,000 members of British Cycling. Fast forward to May of 2019, and there was 150,000 members of British Cycling. Despite all the wins, Team Sky and British Cycling's success played a huge role in inspiring so many to take up the sport in the UK. However, they did draw some criticism, especially as they began to upset the balance of pro cycling and challenge the long-held hierarchy within the sport. Remember, France, Spain, Italy, Belgium have long dominated the Tour de France and have more wins than a British rider to this date. French riders have won the Tour 36 times. There were mutterings of scepticism too in their first year at such lofty ambitions. They came in pretty flash with their bold ideas and their nice Jaguar team cars, and they did cause some to bristle. It kind of went against the understated and self-aware British image, you see. As their success grew, so did the negativity, and some corners of the press and fans claimed that they were overly dominating the sport, taking the fun out of it and making the Tour too predictable. Or maybe it was due to the fact that they had a rather enviable budget. You see, Team Sky had the big bucks. If we look at Team Sky's budget in its first year, it had a whopping £14.6 million sterling at its disposal. That's a whopping £5 million more than long-established French squad AG Desert. And in 2018, when Team Sky were arguably having some of their greatest successes, Team Sky had £10 million more than the estimated annual World Tour budget of £15 million sterling. The budget grew and grew until 2019, when the overall yearly budget was £40 million sterling. By 2017, it had double the budget of French squad AG Desert. And, well, in terms of money, it doesn't look like the Ineos era, the Sky era, is going to stop anytime soon. Jim Ratcliffe now owns the team, and he is also the majority owner of Ineos, a company which had reported revenues of $83 billion last year. So it doesn't look like the budget's going to dry up anytime soon. But it does make you ask the question, would Sky and Ineos have achieved the success they had without such deep pockets? But let's get down to it and look at how success is judged when racing bikes. Wins. Team Sky have in fact won the Tour de France 7 times in the past decade with 4 different riders: Wiggins, Thomas, Bernal and Froome. A stat which is mighty impressive. They have dominated the decade. But is this starting to wane? Sky and Ineos' World Tour wins were down last year in comparison to 2018. In 2019, they only took 8 World Tour victories, compared to 21 World Tour wins in 2018. Now, this doesn't tell the whole picture because they still won the Tour de France, a race which arguably trumps all else on the cycling calendar, especially in the eyes of the general public and media. So let's look at their total UCI wins year on year, which have actually been fairly consistent, with an average yearly win total of 35. 2012 was their biggest haul with 51 wins, mostly due to the success of Wiggins and Cavendish. The years of 2010, 11, 2014 and most notably last year, 2019, were all below average in terms of win totals. Now last year they took 26 wins, which was nearly their lowest haul. only lowered by 2010, their debut season, when they took 22 wins. Is this cause of concern? Is this something to worry about as the win total drops? So, after 4 years of above average wins, should 2019's lower tally cause alarm bells to ring? Well, when we look at GC wins year on year, the picture doesn't look quite as bleak. Sky took the most GC wins in 2017 with 12 wins as a total, the year that included that famous World Tour double with Chris Froome. The squad's average GC win total since their inception in 2010 is 7.5 wins per season. So round that up or down, and 2019's GC win total tally is pretty much on average with 8 wins for the season. And in a team which values general classification victories over multiple one-day wins, like a team such as the Koning Quick-Step, well, it's this kind of pattern which we want to pay close attention to. We want to be looking at their GC wins really than that big total of how many wins they can get in a year. And when you look at it this way and the fact that they won the Tour de France in 2019, it doesn't really look like the era of Team Sky and Team Ineos domination is ending just yet. Okay, but what about the squad's UCI World Tour ranking? Now, we cycling fans don't really pay too much attention to this table, not like we would do in other sports such as football. The UCI decide how the points are distributed to riders and teams, and it can be quite a contentious topic. So in 2018, if you look at the London Classic, for example, a one-day World Tour race, if you finished in 3rd position on this race, you finished on the podium, you'd have got over double the points that you would have got if you'd have won a stage at the Tour de France. Now, no offence to the London Classic, but I think most riders would value a win at the Tour over a podium spot at a one-day race. But anyway, the UCI World Tour ranking is a useful guide to see how a team has fared year on year across all UCI races. Sky were pretty low down the table in their first year when they finished 15th overall, way down the rankings. But 2011 saw a meteoric rise when they finished 2nd overall on the table. Then in 2012 they topped the table, and again they topped the table in 2017 and have consistently finished highly in the UCI World Tour team rankings. Apart from 2014 when they had a minor blip finishing 9th overall. Now, 2014 was a meagre year for the squad compared to their own high expectations. Froome crashed out of the Tour and they didn't manage to place anyone in the top 10 in 2014 at the Tour de France. In fact, they didn't win any Grand Tours whatsoever that year. However, they didn't stay beaten for too long. Froome quickly bounced back and reclaimed the yellow jersey in 2015, proving that Team Sky can't be beaten for too long. So, should 2019's ranking be a cause for concern? They finished 6th on the table in 2019, a little bit down on the average of 4th place on the table, but not too far down, it's not a major jump. And when you look at their success across the years, it's definitely not their lowest place on the ranking table. But it does make you ask the question, are Team Sky and Team Ineos propping up their success too much with Grand Tour victories? As we saw in 2014 when they failed to win a Grand Tour, they slipped quite far down the table. Now, currently in 2020, at the time of this video, they're sitting 9th on the table. Will we see them slip further if they don't achieve that success in the coming Grand Tours? Now, moving on to transfers and Ineos's key riders, and Ineos and Sky's Grand Tour success has come from 4 key riders: Thomas, Bernal, Froome and Wiggins. Chris Froome has been the squad's main winner, taking home 4 out of 7 of their Tour de France wins and 7 out of 10 of their overall Grand Tour successes. But as we all know, Chris Froome is leaving the squad at the end of the year. He's moving to Israel Startup Nation. Adding to the fact that Geraint Thomas has been omitted from this year's Tour de France, and it's obvious that the team is going through somewhat of a changing of the guard. The Sky Ineos era may not be ending, but the way the next chapter is written is certainly going to change. The way they win, the tactics they employ, and the style of Ineos' racing is definitely going to change. Colombian Egan Bernal is their chosen leader for the Tour this year, and at 23 years of age, he is still so young, but he's already got proven Tour success, and he's the hot favourite to take the Tour de France yellow jersey this year. Now, the choice to make Egan Bernal the leader of the Tour definitely shows how Ineos is looking to the future, banking on continued prolific Grand Tour success. Egan Bernal also shows how the squad are shifting from their original ambitions of British success. In this year's Tour de France squad, there are 4 native-speaking Spanish riders. Luke Rowe is the only British rider present. Even if the Sky Ineos era does continue, it will be a new set of riders that are taking up the reins. Will they be able to match the domination of Sky over the past decade? And will they be able to take Ineos domination into a new era, into a new decade? Will they be able to match the likes of Roglic, Pogačar, Quintana, the Yates brothers, Dumoulin, and even Froome himself, who will now be going up against Ineos and looking to topple their domination? It's going to be an interesting battle and one which I can't wait to see how it will all unfold. Let's get a poll going though. What do you guys think? Is this the end of the Sky Ineos era? Yes or no? It's going to be super interesting to see how you all vote on this one. And if you want to catch all the build up to the Tour de France, don't forget you can catch all the races live and on demand with Race Pass on the GCN app. We'll also be showing the Tour de France live and on demand, excluding France and much of Asia. And unfortunately, we won't be able to show the Tour live if you're in Australia, Japan, Canada, or the USA. But worldwide, we'll have our new weekly show, World of Cycling, where along with a special guest, we'll have insight and analysis about the Tour de France. We'll also have daily highlights, so you can catch up on all the action in just a few minutes. It's going to be spectacular. I can't wait for the Tour this year. It's going to be mayhem. I cannot wait to see who's going to take the top step of the cycling hierarchy. Will it be Ineos? Will it be Jumbo Visma? Or will it be someone different? There's only one way to find out. It might even be Larry the Leopard.